It's the greatest job in government. You show up to office once a month and you say, let's see, flip a coin. And then everybody talks about you like you're a god. What is it that you normally do every day in the office? Is it fulfilling and, dare I say, enjoyable? And do you really feel like a god?
We making moves. We making major moves. We making moves. We making major moves. We going all in like we got nothing to lose. We making moves. We making major moves.
What is up, everybody? I'm Mr. Man. Welcome back to my channel. Today, I got some alpha for you guys. I'm gonna go over Jerome Powell. He had an interview here, and one of the questions he was asked, actually this entire interview was fired. But one of the questions he was asked is, can Trump fire you? Or one of the statements are, can Trump actually fire Jerome Powell? I'll put you on that game and tell you that yes, he can, but no, he cannot. There's provisions and there's hoops he has to jump through before he can even do this. So he can puff up his chest all he wants and say, I'm going to fire you, Jerome Powell. He's going to do a lot to get Jerome Powell out. I showed you at the beginning. Let me show you it again, just so you have it in your head.
I would say that we are blessed with a large number of amply compensated critics who would...
Amply compensated critics. Who are those amply compensated critics? Could Trump actually fire head of the U.S. Central Bank, Jerome Powell? The U.S. president has been mounting attacks against Powell for his refusal to further cut interest rates. I'm going to put you on this now. I don't think he's going to cut rates at all until late this year itself. So what's been going on? The Federal Reserve is not in the control seat anymore. It is the Treasury that has taken control and is holding things back. Trump has not stepped up, but he's controlling the tariffs at this point here. This amount, that amount, this rate, that percentage, whatever, okay? He pulled away from the WTO, the way that they have their standard operating procedures set up within that organization, and Trump is acting independently now as an independent nation, not tied to the WTO, not tied to anything except for what's in its own jurisdiction. So, that, and through a executive order, I don't remember the number, 14123 or 93 or something along those lines, Trump had been stating, I'm sure you guys have heard this, that the China has been getting fentanyl within the U.S. borders. So through this executive order to stop China from bringing fentanyl into U.S., and he says it comes from Canada as well, as long as Canada protects its borders, U.S. will be safe. So U.S. is stating that these two countries are bringing fentanyl into the U.S. itself. So under this executive order to stop China from bringing fentanyl into the U.S. itself, he's able to control the tariffs. And the Fed has paused because the Treasury is in control of the money again now. So what are we looking at here, okay? In this video, the Reserve Chair, Jerome Powell, was asked by Rajan, by the way, that guy interviewing him, Ripple, okay? Whether he feels like a god. And Powell responds with humor, okay? Stating that while the role might seem godlike, we are blessed with a large number of amply compensated critics. And this remark subtly acknowledges the significant scrutiny and criticism he faces, particularly from high-profile figures, notably Trump, and his vocal critique of Powell, labeling him a major loser. He actually called him this, okay? I'm not defending. I'm not defending. I'm not saying good, I'm not saying bad. I'm just reading, okay? That's all I'm doing. And expressing dissatisfaction with the Federal Reserve's interest rate policies. Trump's public criticisms have intensified concerns over the Fed's independence and have led to market volatility. Therefore, when Powell mentions amply compensated critics, it's plausible he's alluding to Trump. Okay? So Trump keeps pressuring Jerome Powell to step down, or he's going to get fired. So, what would that look like? How can that look like? How can it legally happen? Because again, Trump doesn't have the power to just say you're fired and that's it, right? It's not like a job you and I would go to the end, right? There's regulations surrounding this. So under the Federal Reserve Act, okay, the chair of the Federal Reserve Board is appointed by the president and confirmed by the Senate. They serve a 4-year renewable term as chair, which is independent from their full 14-year term as governor. So he has a full term, 14 years as governor, but he is acting as the chair for 4-year term. So here we are on the Federal Reserve Board members website here. So the 7 members of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System are nominated by the President and confirmed by the Senate. A full term is 14 years. One term begins every 2 years on February 1st. Of even numbered years. So 2022, 2024, something like that, even numbered years. A member who serves a full term may not be reappointed. A member who completes an unexpired portion of a term may be reappointed. All terms end on their statutory date, regardless of the date on which the member is sworn into office. Very interesting term. So let's look at Jerome Powell. We're on Wikipedia here now. He stepped in as chair under Trump's appointment. He's a Republican. In 2018, during Trump's first term, Trump appointed him in there. He was reappointed or appointed as governor 2012 to 2014. And then, where are we? His term expires next year, May 15th, 2026. But he doesn't need to step down from the board or he has a full 14-year term until January 31st, 2028. So what does that mean? That means Trump cannot just fire him at will. The law is silent on removal grounds, which historically has been interpreted as removal only for a cause like misconduct or incapacity or drugs, something along those lines. And this framework intentionally insulates Jerome Powell, or the Fed chair, from political influence to preserve monetary policy independency. So legally, the president cannot directly fire the Fed chair over policy disagreements, like what's happening out there in the news. And I emphasize and point that out, in the news. But while Trump can't fire Jerome Powell outright, there are strategic tools that can be used to pressure or replace him, though. For example, decline to reappoint. Powell's current term as chair ends in 2026. As you've seen, the president could choose not to reappoint him after that term, even if his term as governor continues. So he's in there as governor until 2028. At 2026, next year, Trump going to say, you know what? I don't want to reappoint you. You're just a governor now at this point. Not just, but you're a governor, By appointing a new Fed governors by appointing new Fed governors aligned with the administration's monetary, regulatory, or digital transformation agenda, which Trump has been on a tear with implementing digital reforms in the White House and across U.S., the president cannot shift the board's majority sentiment, undercutting the chair's leadership. A new vice chair could become a de facto leader. The White House or Congress could initiate public hearings, an FOI, a FOIA, driven investigation, or policy critiques questioning Powell's judgment, financial decisions, or institutional role. Even without legal standing, this can weaken Powell's perceived authority. There are backdoor pressures which can be applied by surfacing the differences in vision or leadership misalignment through media leaks, staff changes, or Treasury critiques, even resulting in a voluntary resignment. So, interesting enough, Paul Atkins is coming into play now. And Paul Atkins is aligned with this digital stuff. Powell is, but isn't. He is, in terms of he's leading the way with what's going on, being in the U.S., and there's a strategic plan. Each jurisdiction has their own plan with how their reserve bank or central bank same thing, different names, are operating. Canada, Mark Carney from back then has set up and arranged that he's looking to be PM now, but he's arranging a liquidity trap. Bam! Right? It's just COVID again, but COVID 2.0. In terms of, we had that buildup, we've had the separation of interest went down, real estate went up. Interest went up, real estate began to fall. Interest rate aggressively falls, which is where we are now. We're sitting at 2.75% here in Canada. People are tapped out. I can't afford this. I can't afford that. Tax time just finished. And people are getting returns. And what do people do best? They spend. Young people, what do they want to do now that they have a bit of money? We've been saving for so long. You know, if I don't get a house, I'll never get a house. Babe, it's overpriced. If I don't get a house now, we'll never get in. Interest rates are falling aggressively, quickly. Real estate prices will modestly continue to go up at this point here. Someone's going to buy a property, something they should not be in because they're a speculative investor. They're going to get their butt handed to them. And when it comes time for renewal, as Carney is setting in place, Carney set the motion for this train back when he was governor. All right, since 2008, Canada did decently through the GFC, the Great Financial Crisis, which is how our economy is still going today. Don't get me wrong. It's being driven into the ground, but it's purposefully being done because there's a new system replacing this old system. All right. Again, when you hold an old system and you get a new system, you got to hold both of them for a while, which is known as coexistence, which is what's happening still with SWIFT. Eventually, the other one has to come down, and this one has to be the de facto. All the backup and information that's on here needs to be present and relevant and current and on the new system. They have to marry each other. That's what coexistence is. This has to look like this, has to look like this, has to look like that. Someone's going to buy something, someone's going to get hurt, interest is going to be too high for people in Canada, because it is, or it will be, and people will be shepherded into stipends, shepherded into, what do they call it there? Government stimulus. For real estate, for small to medium enterprise, they have their digital IDs already out through DIACC, so when you need this, you're going to be in the trap. Canada has the asylum seekers or refugees already since March 20th, 2025. They have to apply for a new identity card, which is a Canadian not backup, but like it's digital identity is what it is. That's how Canadians are going to end up in it. Okay, Canadians, mark my words. When you are struggling, cannot afford your place and where you're living, and you will refinance. And when you refinance, now, while this interest rate is so low at 2.75%, and you can go into the bank and get about 3%, you will get that, and you're going to lock in 2025. Why 2025? Because who knows what 2026 is going to be like. I have an idea what it's going to be like. By the back end of this year, you're going to start to see interest rates begin to rise in Canada. Why are they going to rise? Because it's a bear trap. Because in 2030, when the Kraken is released and Canadians have to refinance again, they are going to refinance into digital tokenized real estate. Okay, back on track now. Paul Atkins, now confirmed as the SEC chair. The Treasury running... Okay, hold on a second. The Treasury is running the 180-day working group under Executive Order 14192. The IRS, the Fed, digital stablecoin integration is accelerating right now. This is what's happening in 2025 in the U.S. Jerome Powell's resisting rate cuts while Trump demands them. I'm telling you, you're going to see it level, just pause, level in terms of the rates. Because the Powell had said in the same interview that the economy is doing all right now. We're in a wait and see position. We're going to see how the tariffs are being played out. And they're just waiting and seeing. They are the ones controlling this. Right? The Treasury is in terms of the money. They are in terms of the rate. Trump is in terms of the tariffs itself. So you have different people controlling this. But the Treasury is what's managing the Federal Reserve right now. And Jerome is just pausing until the back end of this year, where you're going to see the rates different at that point. So The bank oversight and liquidity regulations under Basel III Endgame is going to be coming around soon, January 1st, 2023. At this point, we'll have policies on stablecoins, tokenized assets, and programmable deposits for people. There's been talk about the Doge stimulus, $5,000 stimulus for everybody who has a negative income. The interpretation of digital identity, compliance automation, and private stablecoin issuance within the regulated financial market. May 7th, you guys in the US, May 7th is what you got for the real ID. That's where you're at. All right? So just jumping back now. Can the White House replace him? Can the White House replace Jerome Powell? Yeah. The president nominates and the Senate confirms. Okay, the Senate has to confirm. The final say is with the Senate. It's a Senate-appointed position. Given the current Republican executive alignment and rising G20 pressure to finalize real-time monetary architecture, this is the perfect time to strategically pivot this role from Dodd-Frank legacy old system. The Dodd-Frank system came under the Bretton Woods Accord, which is the legacy mindset, to a new one suited for ISO and composable finance. ISO. So, check this out. With Michael Barr's resignation, let me show you this. So remember I told you, Trump can't just fire Jerome Powell. There's things that need to be put in place. This is a letter from Michael S. Barr, January 6, 2025, okay? Dear President Biden, I am writing to let you know that I intend to resign my position as Vice Chair for Supervision effective February 28, 2025, or such earlier time as a successor is confirmed. So somebody else decides they're going to step in and they confirm it, then this person could step in. I will continue to serve as a member of the Federal Reserve Board. It has been an honor and privilege to serve as the Federal Reserve Board's Vice Chair for Supervision and to work with colleagues to help maintain the stability and strength of the U.S. financial system so that I can meet the needs of American families and businesses. I look forward to continuing to serve the American people as governor. I want to thank you and the U.S. Senate for the confidence you placed in me in nominating and confirming me as the Vice Chair for Supervision. I also wish to thank Chair Jerome Powell, the other governors of the Federal Reserve Board, the President of the Federal Reserve Banks, and most importantly, the main exceptionality talented Federal Reserve employees with whom I have worked, for their unflagging dedication to protecting the American economy and serving the American people. Was there a reason he resigned? Fed's Michael Barr to resign early to avoid fight with Trump. What kind of fight you talking about? Michael Barr, the Federal Reserve's top regulatory cop, stupid words, said he's going to step down on February 28th. We read that letter in a surprising move that will avert a potentially messy legal fight with President-elect Donald Trump, who is now free to replace him with an official he chooses. So there was going to be a legal battle, and Michael S. Barr stepped down. So in terms of replacements, what could that look like? So the confirmation timing depends on the Senate's bandwidth, really, and where they're at. But June or July 2025 would be the tactical window, especially leading into Q3 liquidity restructuring and the G20 implementation. Why June, July, you're asking? Because here we are at the G20. The G20 summary, first finance ministers and central bank governors meeting, which was held February 27th, 2025. I'm going down here. I'll read the first bit. So the first G20 finance ministers and central bank governors meeting took place on February 26, 2027 in Cape Town under South Africa's presidency. There was not consensus for a communique, and this represents the chair's summary of meetings, generally members. That's weird. Okay. So we're in international finance architecture at this point here, okay? Number 14, noted that the finance in Common Summit, which was held in parallel with our meeting. The summit fosters collaborations between international, regional, national, and subnational public development banks. Had a discussion on the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development, which will be held in Spain from June 30th to July 3rd, 2025, and considered the opportunity to contribute constructively to its discussion. So why is this meeting so important here? I'm on the United Nations webpage, International Business Forum, to be held alongside the FFD4. That's what it's called, Spain. So this is in Sevilla, Spain, June 30th, 2020 to July 3rd, 2025. What is this? So the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development. The 4th International Conference on Finance for Development provides a unique opportunity to reform refinancing at all levels, including to support reform of the international financial architecture and addressing financing challenges, preventing the urgently needed investment push for the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. FFD4 conference will be held in 5 Seville exhibition. Okay, in these dates. The International Conference on Financing for Development are the only space where leaders from all governments along the international and regional organizations, financial and trade institutions, businesses, civil society, and the UN system unite at the highest levels, fostering stronger international cooperation. So why do you think there might be a big push for the Federal Reserve to have a new governor in place by this point? It seems highly likely to me. All right, let me know your thoughts. So why is it important now? All right, to choose somebody after Barr stepped down now, the seat's just sitting there open. Why is it important to have that seat filled with someone desirable? Right? It restructures the Fed's supervision to align with Treasury-led digital rails. And by embodying innovation at the Fed, instead of fighting over securities definitions, man, it cleans things up. It strengthens the U.S. alignment with the G20 mandates, the Sustainable Development Goals, the ISO standards, and Project Nexus style interoperability ahead of Q3, Q4 enforcement deadlines. Also, on the Federal Reserve webpage here, it also gets them aligned and set up for the ISO 20022 rollout or implementation, which was rescheduled from March 10th to July 14th, 2025. Right? For the past several years, Federal Reserve Financial Services has worked with industry to prepare for the implementation of the new ISO messaging format for the Fedwire Fund services. The UK's CHAP system goes live next month, May 1st, in 24th, in 7 days. 7 days it goes live. Then we have the US rolling out live at this point. And why is that important? Because Basel III, where banks are required to hold capital reserves, begins to roll out. And that is your great reset, folk. That is your great reset. So speaking of the great reset, you're not going to see it just kind of and shoot up immediately, right? Things happen in their time. Use case has to generate and build up and build up and build up. And the hockey stick will continue to form and form and form and form. Okay? So let's see what Jay Powell, Jerome the homie, has to say. That's my man Ted Talks word there, Jerome the homie. Let's see what Jerome Powell has to say about cryptocurrencies and stable coins.
We're not so very far away from what would be a good, I think, outcome.
Well, let me move to something which is more about technological change and new kinds of instruments, cryptocurrencies. How do you see the potential for more favorable regulations coming on them and potential risks from that for the system?
So we went through a wave of failures and fraud and things like that were the headlines for a couple of years. And I think what you see now is, and during that period, by the way, we worked with Congress to try to get a framework, a legal framework for stable coins, which would have been a nice place to start. We were not successful. I think that the climate is changing, and you're moving into sort of more mainstreaming of that whole sector. So Congress is again looking at both the Senate and the House are looking at a framework, a legal framework for stable coins. You know, depending on what's in it, that's a good idea. We need that. There isn't one now. And stable coins are a digital product that could actually have fairly wide appeal and should contain consumer protections of the typical sorts and transparency. And that's what the Senate and the House are working on. So that's a positive thing. I also think some of the, we took a pretty conservative, and other bank regulators took an even more conservative perspective on the guidance and rules we imposed on banks. I think there'll be some loosening of that, and I think we'll try to do it in a way that preserves safety and soundness, but that permits and fosters appropriate innovation, but that does so in a way that again doesn't put consumers at risk in ways they don't understand or make banks less safe and sound.
So we have stablecoin regulations up on the chopping block now. I was talking about Paul Atkins. Paul Atkins was sworn in as the 35th chairman of the SEC on April 22nd, 2 days ago, precisely within the forecast here, on my timeline, my forecast. And this is a regulatory inflection point at this point here, because Atkins' leadership marks the formal shift away from enforcement-led regulations and into rule-based digital asset integration, tightly aligned with Executive Order 178, and 14192, because his confirmation at this point activates the 60-day alignment window, which goes across the Treasury, IRS, the Fed, and FinCEN. Let me pull that up for you. So don't mind that sound. That's my water tower garden in the back there going. I'm growing my own food. So this here is Strengthening American Leadership in Digital Financial Technologies. Came out from the White House January 23rd, 2025. Let me get down to this. We're here. So within 30 days of the date of this order, the Department of Treasury and the Department of Justice, the SEC, and other relevant agencies, the heads of which are included in the working group, shall identify all regulations, guidance, documents, and orders. Done. Or other items that affect the digital asset sector within 60 days of this order. That's in July now. This order, each agency shall submit to the chair recommendations, Paul Atkins, the chair, with respect to whether each identified regulation, guidance, document, order, or other item should be rescinded or modified. So that's what he's going to be doing now that he's in office. Or for items other than regulations adopted in a regulation. Within 180 days of the date of this order, the working group shall submit a report to the president through APEP, I have no idea what that is right now, which shall recommend regulatory and legislative proposals that advance the policies established in this order. In particular, the White House shall focus on a bunch of these things here. The working group shall propose a federal regulatory framework governing the issuance and operation of digital assets, including stablecoins in the United States. So I'm on a calculator here. Date and time calculator, 180 days from that January 23rd, 2025 date brings us to July 22nd, 2025. They will have stablecoin regulations tabled at that point. Boom, boom. There you go. That's how that goes, okay? The working group shall evaluate the potential creation and maintenance of a national digital asset stockpile and propose criteria for establishing such a stockpile potentially derived from cryptocurrencies lawfully seized by the federal government through its law enforcement efforts. So that's what's going to happen. They're also working on this seizure of reserve assets within 180 days. When is that again? July 22nd-ish. Around that date, they have to have this. That is their 180-day cutoff at that point. What else happens on there? What else happens there again? If you recall, I'd gone through it. The Fed wire switches over to ISO 20022. July 14th, 2025. Meaning they can send digital currencies, stable coins, cross-border or intra-border, cross-state, right? Not until November 22nd, 2022, when SWIFT converts at this point here to and is harmonized into the ISO 20022 framework of things. Then you can get real cross-border movement, because you can't just, you can just send from one to another, but SWIFT is still the intermediary. That correspondent banking flow still exists right now, and it's going to exist still, just with the lack and reduction of intermediaries. So we've gone through that. Where are we at? I'm not a price prediction kind of guy. I'm a fundamentalist, as you can tell here, the way I do my math and the way I read these documents and present the information to you. But what I will give you is some alpha here that I give to my group. This is something here that I've presented to my group. Not this. I still got to read this document here, but this I put out today. So while meme coins are pumping and being drained, XRP is accumulating volume in real utility corridors right now. Let me prove this to you, okay? So here we are at an AMM. I'm on the X Magnetic DEX right now. I'm not a huge fan of their product. It works great for what it does, but I'm not a huge fan of it. Take it for as you want. I'm not telling you not to use it or not to use it. It's totally up to you. Do your homework. Do your research on stuff before you just use something. Don't go off of my recommendation. But here we are, X Magnetic. At this deck there's the label right here. I'm on RLUSD, XRP. You can clearly see on the monthly right here. See my mouse? On the monthly, here's the day, week, month, year. Look at this buildup. This is the TVL. TVL stands for Total Value Locked. From March 26th, look at this. You can see the value over here on the left, on the right here. You can see it beginning to increase. It finds a dip and then shoots up. Look at this going. It jumped, it doubled itself. It went from 1.5 up to 3.4. We're sitting at around 3.2 mil now in terms of total value locked. Like, that's a tremendous amount of liquidity. It doubled itself in a matter of a month. Okay, so it's moving. Things are moving. So yes, it will move. XRP will move with the markets to a degree, especially if Bitcoin does a major parabolic move in late 2025. Why late 2025? I've gone through it already. If Jerome Powell continues to hold that line, hold that level within the Fed at that point, people are in pain, people are hurting, people are crying, people want help. Doge and Elon and Trump can now issue $5,000 stimulus checks, which help onboard people into that digital world without them recognizing it. There are digital nomads like you and I that'll go in there purposefully into this digital world because we know it's coming, but we can do it gracefully. We can set up positions such as DeFi here to be early front runners of these things here. Learn about DeFi, learn what's going on, understand how these assets move, understand how you can make money now, and know you don't have to put up a lot of your assets to do this. I'm just showing you XRP. Don't whine and complain and say, I'm not putting up XRP until there are regulations. You either learn this stuff now while it's cheap or wait till later on when it's more expensive, right? Learn it now, because how many are you going to allow these newbies to come in and get ahead of you and learn because you're playing the fearful paradigm? I don't want to learn nothing else. I could lose it all. You could lose it all now. It's just that simple. The name of the game has always been with investments is cash flow. So learn about cash flow, learn how to stay liquid. Get yourself out of work because your assets are making money for you. Notice I said your assets, because they're making money for you. I'd highly recommend checking out Wealth 28 Club for this. These guys bring you and walk you to it, holding your hand step by step by step by step. And it's very, very affordable. Very, very affordable. So, again, you have the FedWire, July 14th, 2025. You have the stablecoin regulations coming in by July 22nd, 2025. You have SWIFT coming into play November 22nd, 2025. Basel III, where banks are required to hold capital reserves again. 72.5%. It's a slow build up to that, but they have a buffer. I believe it's a 3-year buffer because it's going to be 3 years of pain. Not bad pain. I mean, there'll be pain. When I say not bad, you and I are in this right now, and we've got this figured out. We've already have a store of food in our, our cold storage cellars areas. We have our store of alcohol. If you like alcohol, you know how to get to fresh water. If you need water, you know how to take care of yourself. You figured this out. What we're going through is not going to be like a bread line like back in the day for the Great Depression. It's going to feel like a depression of sorts. But there'll be stimulus for you, digital stimulus, and you won't even recognize that you're in that system because you're going to have to digital ID for this because May 7th in the US, you guys are going on digital ID, the Real ID Act. A lot of people have no idea what it is. They take out their card. I've seen it on Twitter. And they're like, what's the difference? It's just a new card with a little star or something in the top left corner. That brings you into the digital world at that point, and you don't even realize that you've KYC because you've upgraded gracefully. In Canada, it's being done through SME, small to medium enterprise. Real estate people, y'all can't afford stuff. When you refinance, you're going in there. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. So, by early 2026, XRP ODL will be the preferred liquidity corridor. I told my group, not you guys. April will be the liquidity corridor opening scenario at this point. Liquidity corridor is opening up. KYC begins to flood in at this point here. May is the digital ID portion of this strategy here. The preferred liquidity corridor, as old fiat ones, will be slowly expensive. Imagine how expensive it's going to be. If you can move 0.0001 cent versus you got to move a whole cent, you better believe it's going to be more expensive. Not to mention, Trump is highlighting 2026 as a key date. Why? You have July 4th, Independence Day, the commemoration of Independence Day. We are living through 1775, the war that had taken place. In 1776, that was the Independence Day. That's when the first dollar came into this world, the first US dollar. 1776, and then also the first U.S. bank. Trump is in the position right now to make and create the first U.S. digital dollar and U.S. digital bank. Not create them, they already exist, but he's going to bring them into the people. Okay, through executive order or whatever the heck it is that they bring these things out. Okay, so it's the 250 year Independence Day, and I bet it'll be explosive. Also, not to mention, Judy Shelton has been talking about a 50-year convertible gold back bond, a 50-year, to say we have the gold, we have it, we've got the gold in Fort Knox and wherever else we got it. We'll give you guys a convertible bond at this point here, at year 300 or the 300th anniversary, of the Independence Day. They can convert that bond into actual gold at that point. Do they have it? I don't know. We'll find out. I don't know if I'll find. I don't even think I'll be here. I'm 42 as it is right now. So in 50 years from next year, shit, I'll be 92, 93 years old. I might be here for that. We'll see where life goes. If I'm still on here, old ass man in a Spider-Man mask. I can't even. It's awesome. So, 2026 to 2027, okay, is the moment XRP stops behaving like an altcoin and starts behaving like financial infrastructure. It won't be valued by narratives or influencers. I will not have the influence to move markets at all. I'm a nobody in the grand scheme of things. Like I said, I'm a grown-ass man in a Spider-Man mask. I am nobody. I'm just putting this puzzle together and bringing it here to you guys, so you guys can be a part of this and witness this. This is a once-in-a-lifetime thing, and I hope to God this video lasts for my lifetime and the lifetime after my lifetime, my kids' lifetime and their lifetime, and lifetime. Because this is something that you can't even read this in a book. There is nothing like this at all. There's nothing like this at all. Nothing. By the end of 2025 is the blow off the top moment. Let me show you what I mean, okay? So the US dollar is the de facto reserve currency. It stopped being the reserve currency when Bretton Woods Accord had fallen apart. It was just a de facto reserve currency because everybody had it still. It could have stopped whenever. Once you saw the illusion, it could have stopped. But because everybody had the US dollar and viewed it as a reserve currency, it just continued to be the reserve currency. But listen to this, okay?
Thoughts on the longer-term implications for interest rates and economic stability. How much further can we go in terms of national debt before we cross a line that might be unsustainable in the long term?
So the U.S. federal debt is on an unsustainable path. It's not at an unsustainable level, and no one really knows how much further we can go. Other countries over time have gone much farther, but we're now, we're running very large deficits at full employment. And this is a situation that we very much need to address. Sooner or later we'll have to, and sooner is better than later. In terms
So there you have it. They're on an uncontrollable path, but not at an uncontrollable. They're at an unsustainable path, but not at an uncontrollable level, which means they can keep drawing it out till who knows when. But they're going to have to let it end sometime. And it has to be globally coordinated, or else the world will just fall apart. Legitimately, it will just unwind if global economies were to just, if the US dollar just kind of poofed and gone away. The globe would feel it. The societal globe would feel it at that point. So the end of 2025 is the blow off the top moment that we could see. And I don't know how that's going to look in terms of blow off the top moment. Basel III comes in. We have new digital currencies coming out. The, what's it called? The Digital Pound Foundation has already teased about an RLGBP. Sounds really good. You know, the Ripple Great Britain Pound. There's the DEA, who has joked about it already. Digital European Association. Digital Euro Association. Brad Garlinghouse has talked about a digital Japan, a Japanese dollar, digital JPY already. So, check this out. As Bitcoin pumps and frustrated sellers jump ship from XRP, because, well, why isn't this thing moving? Why isn't this thing doing what it needs to do? It's not here for you and I. It's not supposed to go at our time when we want it to go. So you can get frustrated all you want and sell out of your position. Why? Because you do not understand what's going on. Because you think you are entitled and you deserve this. You don't. This is a global shift. You either get on board, open your mind, recognize what's going on. This isn't about the physical being anymore. This involves a higher essence at recognizing that I have no control over this. So I'm in for the ride of my life. That's what a paradigm shift is. You have to be able to let go and be free. You either learn or trust, because you recognize somebody else might have information that you don't have, but you can feel that vibration that they're putting out there, and you can connect with them and recognizing it's truth that they're speaking. So it won't just, XRP won't just decouple, it will switch ecosystems entirely. It leaves the altcoin casino and enters the digital plumbing layer of the new financial system. When prices move, it'll look like that hockey stick. And just like that, it'll be exponential. It's a paradigm shift. So align yourself from now. Do not focus on stupid things like supercars. Don't spend money on useless things. Find ways to tap into DeFi to keep your money going and forever live off of your own earnings at this point here. You bought low. You got into position because you were playing around with things. You learned how things work. And again, do not use your big bag. Do not. Have separate bags. Separate bags. Have your big bag. Have your medium-sized bag. Have your DeFi bag. Have your fucking around bag. Have your bag. Do not just throw everything into one wallet. Plan strategically, okay? This is your once in a lifetime shot. Should everything get hacked out of that wallet, you lost everything. Spread it out in different wallets. Plan for these things. Plan for these things. Listen to Alan Staples. This man talks about trusts within the U.S. If you live in the U.S., take these assets off of yourself. Give it to the custody of the trust that you operate. You are the beholder of this trust, but the assets are not under your name. So when you die, those assets can stay in the family. Nobody has to pay taxes for these things. There's levels to this, okay? It's not just, I'm going to get rich and buy a supercar and go broke the next day because you don't understand the psychology of money. You let money run you, I run money. That's how this works. So I highly recommend, highly recommend you guys look and learn about what's going on. So as more corridors light up, more XRP is needed on chain, permanently locked or staked. I don't think you can stake yet, but there are ways that we'll be able to stake soon within Flare, and I think other protocols will allow it. And this puts upward pressure on price, but not all at once, but steadily. At a certain threshold, a price reaches escape velocity where it just can't be contained anymore, meaning it becomes expensive to speculate with, but cheap to settle with. Ideal for institutions. Remember, this is made for institutions. People think it's made for us. It was initially marketed for us. Why are all the banks in it then? The shock event path is where the lid blows off. It could look like a swift closure of a legacy rail, or where SWIFT is disconnecting from a major currency zone. It could be a massive foreign exchange liquidity event, or the BRICS payment system switch that forces the Western institutions to pivot fast, or even a U.S. executive order declaring XRP and Ripple infrastructure critical for cross-border payments. In that moment, XRP's suppressed range is no longer sustainable. Volume is going to explode and the price is going to respond accordingly. So why? Why XRP? Why? The price hasn't moved anywhere. It's a shit coin. That's why you shouldn't be in this, because you are a speculative investor. I am a fundamentalist. If that's your train of thought, shut my channel down now and just go somewhere else. You're not in the right place. I'm not the guy for you. If you're here because you've been following me and you understand what's going on, or you want to understand what's going on deeper, because you want to fundamentally know what's taking place in this world that you live in, and you're not just chasing money. The minute you chase something, you tend to repel it. If you can attract something, it'll find its way to you because you're aligned with it, because it is aligned with you. Back in 2018, when Robinhood was making 40% of its revenue by selling order flow to Citadel, and it monetized retail traffic by creating a liquidity funnel. You know what? Let me show you. I wrote this earlier. I'll show it to you, okay? Here we go. So back in 2018, when Robinhood was making 40% of its revenues by selling order flow to Citadel, and it monetized retail traffic by creating a liquidity funnel to the biggest market maker in the US. Now fast forward to today. Citadel is tied to Hidden Road, which Ripple had purchased, which has become Ripple's prime brokerage arm. Then you have SIBO. What is a SIBO? This is what a SIBO is. Projectile. About us. Who we are and what we do. SIBO is the world's go-to derivatives and exchange network, delivering cutting-edge trading, clearing, and investment solutions to people around the world. We provide trading solutions and products in multiple asset classes, including equities, derivatives, FX, and digital assets across North America, Europe, Asia Pacific. But we're more than just transactions. We're an exchange of ideas that spark innovation, and a provider of services and education that help you navigate any market environment. So if you're not paying attention, you're missing out what's going on because you're too focused on price. because you're trying to stay in the matrix because you don't recognize what's going on. You're chasing money and you're going to get your ass handed to you. So then you have SIBO, which partnered with Robinhood and Hidden Road. That means the same exchange infrastructure servicing retail traders is now connected to the back-end clearinghouse that Ripple just acquired. On April 8th, crypto firm Ripple to buy prime broker Hidden Road for 125 billion. April 8th. Here we are at Hidden Road website, the Global Credit Network for Institutions, the Global Credit Network. Technology-driven prime brokerage clearing and financing across traditional and digital assets. The back end is now connected to the front end. Boom. That's a quiet boom right there for you, okay? Our services, prime brokerage, FX, precious metals, digital asset exchange, and OTC, over-the-counter, synthetics, OTC swaps, equities, commodities, digital assets, energies, and rates. They clear derivatives clearing, sponsored access, and direct market access, financing, derivatives, margin financing, and digital asset margin financing. So meanwhile, CME, which has just launched XRP futures, is also partnered with Hidden Roads, giving Ripple direct access to the largest regulated derivatives exchange in the world. Combine this with Robinhood's finalized deal with Bitstamp, which is a Ripple-aligned exchange through Bitstamp, on June 1st. I'm not giving you guys past stuff. I'm giving you future stuff. I'm giving you the roadmap here, right? Just take this piece of paper, look at it, open it up, look at it, and be like, okay, I gotta get from here to here. You know what's happening now. I'm giving you the game. You not heard alpha like this, okay? And what you're seeing is a tightly looped feedback system of data, liquidity, and collateral. Now let's add BlackRock in the mix alongside Citadel. They're backing the Texas Stock Exchange, which is a challenger to the NYSE, and NASDAQ, which is expected to launch in early 2026. Why Texas? It's deregulated, innovation-focused, and aligns with the digital dollar, tokenized assets, and private market transformation. This is orchestration at high level. And I am not suicidal. I am not. If you stop hearing from Mr. Man, you know something's wrong. Something done got bad, all right? A select group of players that include Ripple, BlackRock, Citadel, CME, SIBO, Robinhood, Bitstamp are building the programmable liquidity grid that will define the next monetary era. I don't know what else to say, man. I don't know what else to say on this one here. Told you guys about Trump. Told you all about Jerome Powell, who Jerome Powell is, where the US dollar is going. Trump just can't fire Jerome Powell. Michael S. Barr has stepped down, which leaves that position open as a governor. That can be filled. So now we have the whole, not the whole, but a large part of the ecosystem figured out here. Since this deregulation has happened within the Federal Reserve Board as well. Okay? You know who's hanging out with Trump. You see Brad Garlinghouse there. What's up, Trump? What up, my man? What up, dog? I'm Trump. I like Ripple. I'll tell you what, nobody can Ripple better than I can Ripple. My voice, I do a terrible Trump impression, but this should have been enough, all right? Whatever, I'm trying. Anyways, I do hope you found value in this one. I'll catch you guys on the next one.
We making moves. We making major moves. We making